That's a very interesting point you make, Ron, about counterfeit toxins. I know there was a report recently, an article doing some research into the how strong some of these counterfeit toxins were compared to the standard toxins that we use from the major companies. Can you just tell me a little bit about the findings of that report, Ron?
Well, I mean, I think there are two areas there. I think the main area really with toxins anyway, is the fact that there are a number of approved distributors in other countries or suppliers. So Meditox is one, for instance, which is a Korean toxin that, funny enough, is being launched at IMCAS at the end of this month. And that, I can find routes to buy that on the internet now and bring it in.
It's a botulinum toxin.
It's botulinum toxin type A, yes. It's actually it's distributed under different brand names in different countries, and this is the confusing element of this as well. Neuronox is probably the commonest name.
And it's made by a proper pharmaceutical.
It is. It's made by a proper pharmaceutical company. So one would look at that and say, okay, fine. Well, maybe that maybe you have a product here that is, is okay and is going to work and it's going to be safe. I think the issue that you have here, and certainly with regards to biological products, which is what botulinum toxin is that the manufacturers obviously have to get a license to promote them here in this country. Yeah. And there is also another route of a sort of a separate testing route for these products as well, and that used to be done by the National Institute for Biological Standards and Control, and now I believe actually comes under the MHRA's responsibility, but basically where they will take batches of botulinum toxin that are produced by the manufacturers and do separate tests to ensure that the numbers of units that you have in a vial are obviously compliant within a certain level. Clearly, if there was a problem in manufacturing, you had, say, triple or quadruple the amount of toxin in a vial than you thought, that could be a real issue. And certainly when you're using larger amounts, maybe in children for cerebral palsy, you can understand. So I think personally that we would only ever buy from approved manufacturers anyway, and I think that it is principally because I think both from an insurance perspective and from a point of view of us as a clinic, and only wanting to make sure that we buy in the best products and absolutely do no harm.
Ron, I believe that the toxin is relatively easy to produce, but it's slightly more difficult to actually get accurate units of how strong the toxin is, because it needs really quite sophisticated measuring devices. So the problem is that companies can make toxin, but it may be stronger or weaker than other toxins. So I'm aware of this book, which I think everyone in the aesthetics industry should at least look at or be aware of, called From Beauty to Botulism. And in this case, there was a doctor, I believe in the States, who had some counterfeit botulinum toxin and treated both himself and a couple who were his friends, and both of them had severe problems with respiratory paralysis, having to be ventilated for a significant time following the treatment.
Yes, there was. And you have, it was a guy called Kaplan actually, it was over in the States, who I think had bought a toxin that had been bulk toxin manufactured and used this on himself, I think, and some friends.
I heard he'd got it from his friend who was a vet.
Yes, it was, but it was, obviously it was an unapproved source, and there appeared to be more toxin in there than he thought, and they ended up with systemic.
Yeah, I think botulism. 3 people would, as I understand it, 3 people, including himself, were treated with this very high potency toxin and had to be ventilated on ITUs.
Yes, correct.
So that just shows the dangers, I think, of unregulated toxins. Now, so we've got this Korean company with the new toxin.
Yes.
When is that's likely to be launched soon?
It's being launched in Europe. Now, whether that means the UK as well, I'm not entirely sure, and whether it has been approved by the MHRA or not and licensed here. But, we all currently have 3 toxins with different brand names as well, from a cosmetic brand name to the NHS or medical brand name. The other area, obviously, the filler side of things that I think are probably more concerning. So I don't know whether you saw Botched Bodies this week or not, but this is yet another programme that is on Channel 5 that's been looking at, in other words, inverted commas, botched cosmetic surgery. And there was a case on there of a woman who'd had a filler put
Yeah,
in
yeah.
with that had created infection. It was a permanent filler, rumpled on for years, and in the end they had to sort of nick it and try and get this
Very
out.
difficult to take out.
Very difficult to take out.
Yeah.
But some of those fillers are, approved, CE marked.
Yeah.
Things like Bioalchemid we've seen in the past, Dermalive, Outline. I can think of a number of products out there that have come into that sort of permanent filler category. They're not, strictly speaking, illegal. But we would...
They haven't really been tested in huge amounts of people, have they?
Well, this is it. And as a concept, I don't like anything permanent that you put into somebody's face that could be difficult to get out. In other words, that's not sealed around something like an implant is, that you can't discreetly, remove if there's a problem. We've taken that as a clinic as sort of a stance to say, no, hyaluronic acid is our mainstay, and we know that we've got a trick up our sleeve there if there's a problem with hyaluronidase.